Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, my fine friends. Welcome to the 21st episode of the 11th season of the Tom Petty Project podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Brown. This is the weekly podcast that digs into the entire Tom Petty catalogue, song by song, album by album, and includes conversations with musicians, fans, and people connected with Tom along the way. Okay, last week's episode looked at the bright, breezy offcut from the Wildflowers sessions, California. And the comments on social media were predictably universally positive. Over on Blue Sky, my pal Steve Ursel agreed with me about the additional vocal at the end, saying, another good song, really catchy little tune, and that cool secondary counter melody near the end adds a little sprinkling of icing on the cake. Couldn't agree more, Steve. I think the version without it, and I don't know if you've heard that one yet, it maybe is more internally consistent as a song, but I do love that counter melody, so I disagree with Tom on that one that it wasn't needed. The brilliant Russell Mark, former guest and half of the excellent band The Next Doors, wrote, I felt the same way about this song before I ever lived in Cali. And this is in reference to me saying that it made me homesick for a town I didn't grow up in. And he says, wow, we'll have to read that book, Pasadena. And so the book he's talking about is the Van Halen Rising book that I was talking about by author Greg Renoff. Lisa Kelly Pennington successfully guessed my rating and commented on Instagram, I wish my superficial, disconnected, incoherent ramblings worked as well as Tom's, though for him they were few and far between, and for me, it's just daily life. Anyway, 8, 1, and 1. Well, Lisa, try putting into music. You just never know what you might end up with. You know, Highway 61 Revisited is one of Bob Dylan's best albums, in my opinion, even lyrically, and the lyrics on that record, for the most part, could hardly be described as cohesive or focused or narrative or, I don't know what's going on, but I love them. On Facebook, Mary Beth Donnelly responded, I love this song. There's something so sweet and innocent about it, and I always think about what Adria says about it during the Wildflowers documentary. Forget the music, I'm just glad on a human level Tom found a place for himself away from the hard times he experienced in Gainesville. Everyone deserves that. And I'll have to go back and watch the Wildflowers doc because I don't recall Adria's commentary on that one. Nora Hayward Olsen commented, a simple, heartfelt combination of a love and thank you note to my home state. The only downside to being a fifth-generation Californian is that you can't fully appreciate the experience of coming here from somewhere else to start over and find a new home for yourself. But I certainly can appreciate what the state meant to Tom and so many others. Thanks for the episode, Kevin. I'm finally coming up for air and have time to devote to my music podcast again. But thank you very much, and I'm glad to hear that life is evening out for you a little bit, Nora. There's definitely something interesting about the concept of home, isn't there? Just conceptually. I mean, I haven't lived in Wigan, the town I was born in, for well over 35 years now, and I wouldn't want to go back to live there now, to be honest with you, but when I do go to visit, it feels right in some sort of, inexplicable, cosmic sort of way. Jack McNair commented, it's always been the demo version that cuts to the heart of what it's all about. I forgive my past, I forgive my enemies, don't know if this will last, gotta just wait and see. A largely happy song with notes of salted caramel spruced throughout, like most of Petty's best songs. I love that little analogy to salted caramel. It's a good way of putting it. I'm looking forward to talking about the demo and alternate versions once I get to Wildflowers and all the rest. And I didn't talk about the lyrical differences in this song. And it should only be another, 2 or 3 years, I think, before we get there. So, we'll talk about it then. My pal and executive producer Paul Roberts simply wrote, great pod, Kev. Thanks, Paul. Lovely deep cut. So deep, it missed a Wildflowers release. And I definitely talked about that on that episode a little. I feel more strongly day by day that California maybe should have been the 16th track on that record. But it wasn't, and we still have it, so that's all okay. JP Kaufman wrote, if you really feel what Petty is about, you love this song. It is another one, like You're So Bad, where I think to myself, I didn't know you were allowed to write stuff like this. So simple, so sweet, funny, but not a joke. It feels like he wrote it for himself and doesn't care if you think it's cheesy. He did it for real, with a little winky emoji. And I absolutely love the comment that I didn't know you were allowed to write stuff like this. And maybe that ties into why it didn't make Wildflowers in the end. Perhaps it's a little too direct and a little too, little. You know what I mean? And in that sort of way that my pal Ivan Anderson talks about little songs, maybe it's one of those that Tom thought, I don't think it quite fits with the overall tenor of Wildflowers. Anyway, to finish up, Richard Gibson replied, enjoyed the episode. Thanks a lot, Richard. Great track. Meant to say last week, the trashy review guy re Supernatural Radio citing Neil Young. Though incorrect in most of his views, you can see a similarity to Neil Young's Cowgirl in the Sand and Supernatural Radio. It's on the Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere album. That's got a F to A minor verse and then sort of a similar feel in the chorus, a gentle influence possibly. The songs are very different, but you may see more if you check that song, Kevin. Cheers, Rich. Now, I will hold my hand up here and admit an error. Or possibly just acknowledge that the author of that awful review left his comment about Neil Young a little ambiguous. When I read that he was comparing it to Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere, I Googled it and got the song, without realizing that it's also the title of the album. So when I listen to the track that you mentioned here, Cowgirl in the Sand, I can definitely draw a much straighter line to Supernatural Radio. And I've talked about this before, I really struggle with Neil Young's vocals, but I might have to try to get past that and give this album a listen, because I did really enjoy that song after listening to it. Okay, well, that's everything for social media. Thanks as always for your wonderful comments. Let's get into our first instrumental in the Petty catalogue. Hope on board. I suspect it's going to be a shortish episode here, and looking at my notes now that I've written them, I don't know, it probably will be, because A, this is a shortish song at 1 minute and 18 seconds, and B, because as I mentioned, it's an instrumental, so we don't have any lyrics to talk about. The form of the song is really just the chord progression from Waltz, slowed right down and played on acoustic guitar with accompanying violin and cello and bass guitar and some very gentle piano accompaniment too. Now, I always say that I don't play the songs in the episodes, but I'm going to break convention this week to play you the song in the context of where it's used in the movie. And I hope that if anyone's listening from the Petty Estate, I hope that this is okay. Because I think that to really sort of appreciate what this piece of music is, you really need to hear it in that context of the movie that it was written for. So in the movie, after many ups and downs over the course of the relationship between Mickey and Hope, and also after the collapse of his brother and his father's relationships with their spouses, the three men are about to head out onto one of their regular fishing trips. We pick up the dialogue when the patriarch, played by the superb John Mahoney, is conceding that he may not always have been the best father when it came to advice about women. Mickey tells his father that he isn't going out onto the water today, and his dad responds, which is where we pick up the action and where the reason for this song title is revealed.
You know, seeing as we're all sitting here crying on our beers while our women are out living their lives, I gotta think that maybe I gotta apologize to you guys for all the rotten advice I've been giving you.
Come on, Dad. Don't be so hard on yourself. You don't have to apologize to us.
Yeah, I do. I did it for both of you, though. But look at you. You're a fucking mess, and I'm partly responsible. I don't even know what to tell you. First time in my life I'm at a loss for words.
What do you think's gonna happen between you and Mom now?
I don't know. We had a down cycle. We just couldn't get out of it.
I told you. It happens.
Hey. Enough of this horse shit. Come on, we're gonna go fishing or what? You know, this isn't gonna be so bad, boys. As long as we got each other, we'll do fine. Deirdre, are you coming?
I don't think I'm gonna make it today, Dad.
Why the hell not?
Because Hope's going to Paris tomorrow, and I'm gonna go with her.
All right, well, if you can't make it fishing, maybe you can help us load up the gear.
Hey.
Hi.
What are you doing here?
I don't know, really. Your dad called to invite me fishing.
Yeah, and what about Paris?
What about Paris?
You still think you want to go along?
Mick, come on. I didn't come to Brooklyn this morning to go fishing with your father.
See, Hope? All these years he's been ignoring my advice. Now he's finally wising up. Come on, Mickey, get your ass in the boat.
Hey, Mr. Fitz, don't you think I should drive?
I think maybe we should take this one step at a time, honey.
So really, what I wanted to talk about before I look at the music, which, as I say, won't take long, is how excellent a piece this is to sit underneath that scene. You know, we all know that music can make or break a movie, and I think that the pieces that were written for this one that aren't full songs with the lyrics are really tonally accurate and get it exactly right every single time. The movie, or at least Mickey and Hope's arc within it, is wrapped up in a fairly neat little bow during this scene, as romantic comedies tend to do, but there's a genuine sweetness to the end of this one that I think is elevated by the decision to use acoustic guitar as the lead, with strings as the bed of this track to lead out. The fact that it transitions directly into Waltz number 3, which plays us out over the end credits, is just a huge added bonus and is almost certainly why that chord progression and form was used in this spot. After thinking about this piece of music and where it sits in the film, I actually think that Hope on Board and Waltz number 3 should close out the album. You could easily slide the other tracks up and maybe reorder them slightly perhaps, but having these two songs finish the record would have made a little more sense to me in the context of it being a soundtrack album. You know, but that just adds to the disjointed nature of this release in some ways. Okay, here's the song itself. This is one paragraph, folks. The shortest one probably I'm going to write. Well, maybe, you know, in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, whenever we do Airport, that might be a little bit shorter, but I guess we'll see. As I said, it begins with that gorgeously captured acoustic guitar. That root F note is held throughout the progression to act as an anchor and suspending the C and G chords when they flow through. At the halfway point of the phrase, after 4 bars, the violin then comes in really gently, followed by, I think, plucked strings on the cello, before the cello takes the bass line being strung, along with a bass guitar and some very clean, simple piano notes, and some plucked violin strings are also added in there, I think. It builds this incredibly beautiful and airy conclusion on the major fifth, the C, with that added F note to make it a C sus4. As you heard in the clip, the last lines of dialogue are delivered over this held chord before Waltz kicks us into the end credits. And that's it. That's all she, or in this case he, wrote. Alrighty, folks, it's time for some petty trivia. Your question from last week was this. Which team won the Super Bowl at which Tom and the Heartbreakers played the halftime show? Was it A, the New England Patriots, B, the Pittsburgh Steelers, C, the New York Giants, or D, the Los Angeles Raiders? Well, the New England Patriots were on the wrong end of the scoreline in that Super Bowl after winning 3 of the previous 6. The Pittsburgh Steelers won the Super Bowl the following year with Bruce Springsteen headlining that halftime show. The Los Angeles Raiders' only appearance in the Super Bowl was in 1984 when they beat the Washington Redskins. The halftime show that year has a tangential relationship with the Heartbreakers, as Gainesville's own University of Florida Marching Band, in conjunction with the Florida State University Marching Band, played the halftime show. Which means that the answer is C, the New York Giants.
All hail the New York Giants!
The Giants came out on top, 17-14 winners against the Patriots on February 3rd, 2008 at the University of Phoenix Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. The MVP was Eli Manning, and the referee apparently was Mike Carey. 71,101 people saw that game. Your question for this week is this. On 2021's re-release of She's the One, titled Angel Dream, which additional cover song was included as part of the 12 tracks on that album? Is it A, 5 years, B, 13 days, C, 8 days a week, or D, 16 tons? Okay, back to the song. I'd love to know if an extended version of this arrangement exists anywhere on the cutting room floor. And I know that there was only one violinist, Lili Haydn, who, incidentally, I'm hoping to have on the podcast, and 2 cellists, Gerri Stutyak and Michael Severens. But I think if you kept building this into a full orchestral string arrangement with some timpani or some other percussion added, it could have been a pretty amazing piece of music in its own right. As it stands, it's an absolutely perfect piece for this portion of the movie, or for this scene in the movie, and shows that had Tom decided he wanted to score more movies, he would have been perfectly capable and would have been excelled at doing so. An artist we covered on Season 4 of The Ultimate Catalogue Clash, Mark Knopfler of Dire Straits, had a really excellent sideline career writing for movies, including The Princess Bride, Last Exit to Brooklyn, and of course, Local Hero. It would have been an interesting alternative timeline to explore had Tom spent some of his downtime from touring working on projects like that. Okay, Pettyheads, that's it for this week. Well, this is a strange one because it's harder to rate an instrumental that is specifically written for a movie, I think. So I think what I have to do is regard this in terms of its placement and appropriateness for the movie, as well as the content of the piece itself. Hope on Board is a really simple 4-chord progression with some beautiful strings added in to build the story into its final scene. And I know I'll be scoring this higher than most of you, but for me, it couldn't really be too much better, so I'm giving Hope on Board an 8 out of 10. Tom Petty Project is a proud member of the Deep Dive Podcast Network. Go check us out at deepdivepodcastnetwork.com. I'm sure you'll find a podcast there that you'd like to listen to. You can also check out my other podcast, Seaside Pod Review, a Queen podcast that I do with my best friend, Randy Woods, who performs all the music here in this podcast and the theme tune. And you can also check out the Ultimate Catalog Clash that I co-host with my great pal, Corey Morissette, who's also has a new show out called The Power of Positive Geeking, which you definitely should check out because it is absolutely fantastic. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube at The Tom Petty Project and on Blue Sky at Tom Petty Project. Go follow, like, subscribe as applicable. Do all those things and leave reviews, leave ratings, all that kind of stuff. Keep talking to me on social media, and I will keep reading out your comments on the show. As a weekly reminder, The Tom Petty Project is not affiliated with the Tom Petty Estate in any way. And when you're looking for Tom's music, please visit official streaming platforms and go to your local independent record seller, grab some physical media, even if it's just to put on a shelf and look at. If you're looking for official merchandise, go to tompetty.com. And if you're looking for merchandise for this show, go to tompettyproject.com. Don't forget to check out the Tom Petty Nation and Tom Petty Fans Forever groups on Facebook. And make sure you check out Tom Petty Radio on Channel 31 on Sirius XM. Until we meet again next week, keep listening to and sharing Tom's music. Try to be kind. Try to say I love you to someone at least once a day. Stay safe and healthy. And I'll be back with you next week to talk about Walls number 3. Bye-bye.